work in the pro department at a home improvement store, and I usually close the shifts with my best friend, Nicole. She's a kind and pretty cashier, but being as attractive as she is, she gets a lot of unwanted attention from contractors. It's something we've both learned to shrug off. It's just part of the job. Some compliments, a dinner invite here and there, and while most of the guys are harmless, it can get uncomfortable for her, especially since Nicole is gay and has a girlfriend. She didn't like sharing that fact with others, feeling it wasn't their business, so she kept it to herself. Nicole and I have become pretty close over time, and it was always nice to have someone there to pass the time with during the lonely closing shifts. She even covered for me when I needed a lunch break. Nicole told me about a guy who had been flirting with her earlier that day. She politely turned him down, saying she was already in a relationship. He wasn't too happy about it, but left after a while. It seemed like the usual thing we dealt with. That was until the same man returned later that evening when Nicole had stepped away to help a customer. He walked up to the counter, a tall guy who looked fairly normal, handsome even, though there was something about him that felt off. When I asked if I could help, he said he was there to see Nicole. I asked how he knew her, and he claimed they'd spoken earlier, and she had agreed to go out with him. He looked back down at the generator as he asked, but that didn't make sense, because Nicole had turned him down. I told him she wasn't in the store anymore, but he insisted on seeing her, saying he wanted to ask her out again. I told him no, that it wasn't going to happen. That's when he got frustrated and asked why not. I panicked, not wanting to tell him Nicole was gay if she wasn't ready for that to be public knowledge. So I blurted out, "Nicole is my fiancé." He froze, looking confused. "How could someone as pretty as her be with someone like you?" He scoffed. I was taken aback by his comments, but I tried to stay calm. I told him it didn't matter, that Nicole and I were getting married in a couple of months, and he needed to leave. The look on his face turned from frustration to something more sinister. But he didn't say anything else. He gave me a death glare before turning to leave. When Nicole came back, I told her what happened. She was freaked out, but found it pretty funny that I had used the fiancé excuse. She even joked she'd rather be engaged to me than go out with that guy. We thought the whole thing was over, but then, a few weeks later, things took a terrifying turn. It was nearing closing time, and Nicole and I were taking out the trash when we heard a loud bang on the front door. Both of us nearly jumped out of our skins. When we looked up, there he was, standing outside the door, his face pressed against the glass, staring at us. His eyes were wide, and he had a crazy look in them. I told him we were closed, but he insisted he needed to come in. Nicole yelled from behind me, telling him to leave her alone. But then he did something that chilled us to the bone. He screamed that he wasn't there for her, but for me. And he said that if he could take out her husband, she'd be all his. My stomach dropped. I told Nicole to run to the manager's office and call the police. I stayed at the door, trying to keep an eye on him. The guy wasn't very big, but I was terrified. He could have been carrying a weapon, and we weren't allowed to carry anything to defend ourselves. I felt totally helpless. Then, out of nowhere, the man started ramming the sliding doors like he was trying to break in. The doors rattled violently, and I thought they were going to come off their hinges. My heart raced as I braced myself for whatever might happen next. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Nicole came running back, holding a 2x4.9. She yelled that the cops were on their way, and the man finally stopped. He glared at us one last time before storming off. The police arrived not long after, and the store manager met them at the door. They checked the security cameras, and it wasn't long before they arrested the guy. Nicole and I didn't feel safe working there after that. We both transferred to different stores shortly after the incident. We're still close friends, even attending the same college now, but I'll never forget that night. I'm glad Nicole was there to help me, and I can't imagine what could have happened if I hadn't stepped in. It was a wake-up call for both of us about how dangerous it can be when someone just refuses to take no for an answer. Nicole always says she's glad I was there for her too, and that having a guy around makes men like him think twice before trying anything. But it's a reminder that for some women, just saying no isn't enough. Sometimes they have to fight for their safety.